Anna thought she was escaping. One-way ticket, dawn flight. New life, but as she stepped through JFK's security, a canine dog froze at her side. Not for drugs, but for the bruises hidden beneath her sweater. What followed revealed a terrifying truth. Her controlling ex-husband had orchestrated the entire trip, watched her every move, and waited to reclaim her. One dog's instinct would trigger a race against time to save her life. If you want more real stories like this, hit like and subscribe and tell me, would you have caught the danger in time? Anna Reynolds had rehearsed every step of this journey in her mind for weeks. In her carry-on bag, there were only the essentials. One change of clothes, a small pouch with her son's favorite toy, and a passport that still smelled faintly of disinfectant from the drawer where she'd hidden it. It was barely 6 a.m. when she stepped into Terminal 4 of JFK International Airport. Her face pale under the flickering fluorescent lights. A thin layer of sweat clung to her skin, though the early morning air was cool. To any casual observer, she was just another traveler clutching a worn tote and a ticket to Seattle. But beneath the surface, Anna's heart was a trapped bird, frantic with the knowledge that if today went wrong, there would be no tomorrow. The line for TSA screening moved at a predictable crawl. Families with strollers, business travelers with sleek roller bags, elderly couples leaning on one another. Anna envied their casual movements, their sense of belonging. She shifted her weight from foot to foot, suppressing the urge to glance over her shoulder. Her ex-husband, Daniel, wasn't supposed to know. No one was supposed to know. She had used a burner phone to book the ticket, paid in cash at a travel kiosk in Queens. Still, a gnawing paranoia coiled in her gut. When her turn came, Anna handed over her passport and boarding pass with trembling fingers. The TSA officer, a stocky man in his 40s with a practiced smile, barely glanced at her before waving her through toward the security line. That's when she heard it. The sharp bark of a dog ahead of her. A black and tan German shepherd on a short leash was moving with deliberate precision beside its handler. A young officer with alert eyes. The canine unit wasn't part of the routine screening. It had been stationed further up the line, performing random checks. Anna's throat tightened. She forced herself to breathe evenly, to keep moving. She placed her bag on the conveyor belt, towed off her worn sneakers, and stepped through the body scanner. The beep. The officer motioned for her to step aside. "Please wait here, ma'am," he said, polite but firm. That's when the dog reacted. Without warning, it lunged forward, pulling hard against the leash toward Anna. Its hackles rose, ears pinned forward, nose working furiously. The handler's voice was calm but urgent. "Max, heel." But Max ignored the command, circling Anna once, twice, then standing rigid in front of her with a low growl. The officer radioed something, and within seconds, 2 more TSA agents arrived. "Ma'am, please step over here," one said, gesturing toward a secondary screening area. Anna's knees felt like water. Her voice cracked as she tried to protest. I don't have anything," she whispered. But the agents weren't listening. The canine's behavior couldn't be ignored. In the small partitioned area, the lead TSA officer approached with the handler. "We need to perform a more thorough search," he explained, eyes scanning Anna's trembling form. "Are you carrying any controlled substances or prohibited items?" "No, nothing, please." The officer nodded toward a female agent. "Pat down," he ordered. As the agent began her search, Max remained close, his nose pressed to the air around Anna, whining softly now, less aggressive but no less insistent. The agent's hands paused when they reached Anna's upper arm. "Sir," she called softly, drawing the officer's attention. "Look at this." She gently rolled up Anna's sleeve to reveal a deep, mottled bruise. A bruise that spread across her bicep in shades of purple and yellow. A matching set marred her ribs and lower back when her loose blouse was lifted slightly. The room went still. The TSA agents exchanged glances. This wasn't about drugs. The dog hadn't been alerting on contraband. It had been responding to something else entirely. Anna's scent, a cocktail of fear, pain, and old blood. The handler crouched beside Max, murmuring quietly. The dog gave a soft whine, leaning subtly toward Anna. "Ma'am," the lead officer said, his voice gentler now. "Are you okay? Is someone hurting you?" Tears welled up unbidden in Anna's eyes. She bit her lip hard, refusing to let them fall. I need to catch my flight," she whispered. "Please, I need to go." But the officer shook his head. I'm afraid we can't clear you to board just yet. We need to speak with you further. For your safety." He gestured for a supervisor. Anna's heart sank. The plan was unraveling. She had been so careful, and yet it was a dog, a creature trained to sniff out danger in all its forms, that had seen what no human had. As Max sat obediently beside his handler, watching Anna with unwavering eyes, she realized with a sinking heart that escape was now a distant hope. All she could do was pray that this unplanned intervention might somehow, impossibly, lead to rescue instead of ruin. Anna sat in a sterile interview room behind a frosted glass wall on the second floor of Terminal 4. Her pulse was still racing from the canine encounter. She kept her arms wrapped around herself as if to shield the bruises now exposed to strangers. A tall man in a Navy TSA supervisor uniform entered, a folder in hand. His nameplate read K. Munro. Without introduction, he took the seat opposite her and opened the folder. "Anna Reynolds, age 33, he began, scanning the papers. "Boarding pass for Delta 847 to Seattle. One-way, no return ticket." His gaze flicked up to meet hers. "Why no return?" Anna swallowed hard. "I'm moving," she replied softly. "To stay with family." Munro tapped his pen against the folder. "Your passport shows several oddities," he continued. "Recent water damage to the inner pages. An older entry stamp from Prague looks smudged, almost like it was forcibly reapplied." He paused. "Have you been coerced into this travel?" Anna's stomach twisted. "No," she whispered, gripping her arms tighter. "I bought the ticket myself." Munro leaned back in his chair, scrutinizing her. "We also noted during screening that you appeared unusually nervous." The canine reacted strongly, not to substances, but to physical trauma. "You've got visible bruising. Given these factors, we're obligated to consider the possibility of human trafficking." Anna flinched. "I'm not," she began, but Munro raised a hand. "Please understand, ma'am, we've seen victims who don't even realize they're being trafficked, or who are too afraid to admit it." His tone softened. "Are you traveling alone of your own free will?" Anna hesitated, her throat closing up. The word yes refused to form on her lips, because in truth, she wasn't sure what counted as free will anymore. The TSA agent's concern wasn't misplaced. She had planned this escape meticulously, but the shadows of Daniel's control still loomed. "Yes?" Voice raw. Munro didn't look convinced. "We're conducting a broader investigation," he said. "For your safety, we'll need to hold you here until we complete our checks." He rose, gathering his folder. "Someone will bring you water. Please try to stay calm." The door clicked shut behind him, leaving Anna alone with her spiraling thoughts. Minutes dragged into an hour. Through the one-way glass, agents reviewed her file and footage from the terminal. Among them stood Officer Jenna Marks, the canine handler whose partner Max had triggered the initial alert. Jenna's brow furrowed as she reviewed the security feeds. Something didn't add up. "Rewind," she said to the technician monitoring camera 47 facing the public waiting area near the TSA checkpoint. "There," she pointed. "That man. Back it up 10 seconds. On the screen, a tall man in a gray wool coat and ball cap paced near the seating area. Gaze fixed toward the TSA. His posture was tense, movements controlled but restless. "Zoom in," Jenna instructed. The camera tightened on his face just as he tilted his head, briefly revealing a sharp jawline and piercing blue eyes. Jenna froze. "Run him through facial recognition," she ordered. A few keystrokes later, a match appeared. Daniel Reynolds. No outstanding warrants but flagged in past domestic violence reports. The note made Jenna's stomach clench. "That explains Max's behavior," she muttered. "Dogs can pick up stress pheromones and familiar threats." Sure enough, on the recording, every time Daniel came into frame, Max had shifted restlessly, growling low. Even when Anna was moved to the interview room, Max had continued pacing, occasionally whining toward the same direction. "She's not the trafficked party," Jenna said quietly to Munro, who had returned. "She's running from him." Munro exhaled slowly. "That complicates things." In the interview room, Anna sat unaware of these developments. When the door finally opened again, it wasn't Munro but a different figure. An airport police officer named Detective Louis Chen, older, with kind eyes that hinted at patience. He placed a bottle of water on the table. "Ms. Reynolds," he began, voice gentle, "I'd like to ask you again, are you in danger?" Anna bit her lip. No, she lied, her voice trembling. Chen regarded her in silence for a moment. We're concerned, he said. There's someone here, a man we believe you may know, who's been seen lingering near security checkpoints. His name is Daniel Reynolds. Anna's breath caught. Her hands instinctively clutched the table edge. Is he here now? She whispered. Chen nodded. Our K9 team picked up on something unusual. The dog you encountered, Max, has shown repeated reactions each time this individual appeared on camera. Anna's heart pounded. She fought to maintain her composure. I can't, she started, but her voice broke. Tears finally spilled over. But even as she pleaded, just let me go. But even as she pleaded, no escape was no longer an option. The officers weren't blind. The bruises, the one-way ticket, the damaged passport, all pointed to a woman in flight from something darker than she dared admit. Outside the room, Daniel shifted nervously in his seat, oblivious to the fact that cameras tracked his every move. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're being watched, leave now. Daniel's jaw tightened. He glanced toward the cameras, sensing but not yet understanding the full scope of the net closing in around him. Inside the control room, Jenna leaned closer to the monitor, eyes narrowing. Max's repeated cues and Daniel's restless pacing told a story no one could ignore. He knows something's wrong, she said. He bolts, we'll lose our chance. Monroe crossed his arms. We need to buy time. Keep Anna safe, figure out our next move. Jenna nodded, gaze flicking back to Max, who now sat by her side, ears pricked forward, as if awaiting a signal only he could hear. Detective Chen stood just outside the interview room, arms folded, watching Anna through the one-way glass. Inside, Anna sat with her head down, shoulders shaking slightly as silent tears streamed down her face. Chen sighed, sensing the layers of fear and shame that kept her silent. Next to him, Jenna Marks reviewed the latest footage of Daniel Reynolds pacing through the terminal. He's waiting, Jenna said grimly. He knows she hasn't boarded. Monroe joined them, rubbing his temple. We need more. Right now it's circumstantial. If we don't get something solid, we'll have to let her go or risk a legal mess. And send her straight back to you, Jenna replied sharply. You know what that means. Monroe's jaw tightened. I do, but we need more. Just then, Officer Ramirez, a young TSA agent, approached holding a sealed evidence bag containing Anna's phone. He pulled her phone for standard security check. Ramirez said, Found something you might want to hear. He held up a tablet already queued with an audio file. Monroe raised an eyebrow. Play it. Ramirez pressed play. The recording began with static, then Anna's soft voice. I'm trying to reach safe path. I need help. I don't have much time. A pause, followed by a rough male voice, cutting in, low and threatening. Hang up, now. You know what happens if you don't. Don't test me, Anna. A muffled rustle, the click of a call ending. The room fell silent. Janasa's hands clenched into fists. That was recent, she asked. Ramirez nodded. 2 days ago. Looks like the call never went through. Monroe exhaled. That's enough to escalate. He grabbed the nearest phone. Get the airport command team, we're calling a priority briefing, now. Within 15 minutes, a conference room near the command center filled with key personnel. Monroe stood at the front, flanked by Jenna and Chen. Everyone listen up, Monroe began. We have a developing situation involving potential domestic violence, coercion, and possible threat to passenger safety. He summarized Anna's background, the bruises, the K9 alerts, the one-way ticket, and now the intercepted call. You also have surveillance on Daniel Reynolds, her ex-husband, who appears to be tracking her movements inside the terminal. He nodded to Ramirez, who played the audio clip. The room stiffened as Daniel's voice echoed from the speakers. We believe Anna attempted to contact a domestic violence hotline, was intercepted and threatened. Jenna stepped forward. Max's repeated alerts suggest Reynolds presents an ongoing threat. We've logged multiple instances of him loitering near the TSA checkpoint, Chen added. If she walks out of this terminal without protection, it's a matter of time before he gets to her. We need to intervene. An airport operations manager raised a hand. What's our legal standing? She hasn't formally reported him. She's terrified, Chen replied. But the bruises, the recording, and the surveillance give us enough to justify protective action. We can hold her for welfare concerns and coordinate with NYPD domestic violence units. And Reynolds? Someone asked. Monroe answered, we can't detain him without cause, but we can monitor him and coordinate with local law enforcement if he escalates. Jenna interjected, we should also alert gate agents and flight crews. If he tries to board or confront her, they need to be prepared. Monroe nodded. Agreed. I'll issue the alerts. Across the hall, Anna remained in the interview room, unaware of the growing web of concern forming around her. She stared blankly at the wall, her mind looping through worst-case scenarios. Every minute here increased the risk. If Daniel suspected she was delayed, he would grow more dangerous. Just then, Ramirez re-entered with a soft knock, carrying her phone. You recovered an interrupted call from your phone. To a hotline. Anna's eyes widened, panic flashing. Please, she began, but Ramirez held up a hand. You're not in trouble. We're here to help. We know he's here. We know he threatened you. Anna's breath caught, and for a moment the mask cracked. He'll kill me, she whispered. If you let me go, he'll be waiting. We won't let that happen, Ramirez said firmly. We need your help. Anything you can tell us gives us more to work with. Anna hesitated, torn between instinctive distrust and the fragile thread of hope these strangers offered. Before she could answer, a soft knock sounded at the observation room door. A technician poked his head in, addressing Jenna. Ma'am, you need to see this. We caught Reynolds on another camera. Jenna followed the technician down the hall to a bank of monitors. On screen, Daniel was on his phone, posture rigid, eyes scanning the crowd. They patched in the audio feed from the terminal mic. His voice came through tense. She's in there too long. Something's wrong. Find out what's going on. Jenna's pulse quickened. He's got help, she said grimly. Who's he talking to? The technician checked the phone number being used. It's a burner, no ID. Monroe joined them. This is turning fast, he said. We may need to pull her to a more secure location. And Reynolds? Jenna asked. Keep eyes on him. If he starts moving toward secured areas, we engage. Back in the interview room, Anna stared at her phone as if it might explode. Ramirez kept his voice calm. Miss Reynolds, we believe you're in immediate danger. We're preparing to move you somewhere safe, but we need to know, does he have anyone else here? Is he working with someone? Anna's lips parted, but before she could speak, an alarm chimed in the command center. One of the surveillance team shouted, Reynolds is moving. He's heading toward the secondary screening area. Jenna swore under her breath and sprinted for the door. The atmosphere inside the interview room had grown heavier with every passing minute. Anna's heart pounded against her ribs like a trapped bird, her breath shallow and uneven. Ramirez had been kind, gentler than the others, but her nerves were frayed to the breaking point. The knowledge that Daniel was in the terminal, watching, waiting, gnawed at her composure. She kept her arms crossed tightly over her bruised torso, desperate for some semblance of control. Jenna entered briskly, her canine partner Max at her side, the dog's gaze fixed on Anna with steady, unreadable intensity. Ms. Reynolds, Jenna said, her tone professional but not unkind, we're going to be moving you shortly to a more secure area. I'll be accompanying you. Anna nodded weakly, her mouth dry. Please, she whispered, can I use the restroom first? Jenna exchanged a glance with Ramirez. After a brief pause, she nodded. Of course. But Max will stay with you. For your safety. The words felt oddly comforting and terrifying at the same time. Anna forced herself to her feet, her legs trembling as if they might give out beneath her. Jenna opened the door, motioning for her to follow. Max stayed close to Anna's side, not pulling or straining, simply matching her pace with unerring precision. In the corridor, Anna caught glimpses of security personnel moving with purpose, radios crackling with coded updates. She couldn't hear the words, but the urgency in their movements told her enough. Daniel was on the move. Fear prickled her skin. The restroom was down a short hallway past a locked service door and a vending machine that hummed softly in the background. Jenna held the restroom door open, giving Anna a measured look. I'll be right outside, she said. Max will stay just inside. Anna gave a small nod, her throat too tight for words. Inside the restroom, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glare on the white tile walls. The space was empty. Max padded in behind her, settling near the door, eyes watchful. Anna hesitated for a moment, then ducked into the farthest stall, closing the doors softly behind her. Her hands shook as she reached into her pocket, retrieving her phone. She'd hidden a backup phone there, a cheap prepaid burner with no connection to her usual accounts. It had been a desperate precaution, and now it might be her only lifeline. Her fingers fumbled to power it on. The screen blinked to life, the signal bar flickering weakly. 1 bar. Enough for a text if she moved fast. She opened a blank message, her mind racing. Who could she trust? Her sister was too far away and too scared. The police? No guarantee they could intervene in time. Then she remembered a number scribbled on a card tucked deep in her wallet. Safe Path. The same organization she'd tried to reach before Daniel had forced her to hang up. She punched in the number, typed out a frantic message. Help, I'm in JFK Terminal 4, restroom near security. Husband following me. Please send police. Her thumb hovered over the send button. She hesitated, a cold instinct crawling up her spine. Something felt wrong, too exposed, too easy. She looked up, her eyes scanning the small stall, and then she saw it. Nestled high in the corner, barely visible against the white tile, was a tiny black dot, a pinhole camera, its faint red light blinking softly. Her breath caught in her throat. It wasn't the airport's camera. The placement was wrong, and the TSA would never install one inside a restroom stall. Her mind reeled. Daniel, of course. He had always been 2 steps ahead, always watching. He must have known she'd try to contact someone again. Her fingers trembled violently as she deleted the message, erasing all trace of it. The camera remained silent and unblinking, capturing her every move. Panic clawed at her throat. If she sent the message, Daniel would know instantly. And if he knew, he would escalate. He always did. She forced herself to breathe, to think. Max whined softly outside the stall, as if sensing her distress. Anna's hands shook as she powered down the burner phone and slipped it back into her pocket. She flushed the toilet to mask her movements, then opened the stall door slowly. Max was sitting exactly where he'd been, ears pricked, eyes on her. Jenna waited just outside the restroom door, her stance alert. Anna forced a brittle smile. "Thank you," she said, her voice a brittle thread. Jenna studied her for a beat longer than necessary, her sharp gaze missing nothing. She noticed the faint sheen of sweat on Anna's brow, the slight tremor in her hands. Something had changed. "Everything all right in there?" Jenna asked carefully. Anna opened her mouth, then closed it again. The weight of the camera's gaze still pressed against. She couldn't say anything here. Not yet. "Yes," she whispered, scared. Jenna gave a small nod. "Understandable, we're moving you now, stay close." As they walked back toward the interview area, Max at her side, Anna's mind raced. The camera meant Daniel had someone working for him inside the terminal, someone who had access to restricted spaces. The scope of his control was wider than she'd imagined. Worse, if he knew she had tried to send a message, he might act faster. The noose was tightening, and with every step, Anna felt it more keenly. They reached the hallway where Monroe and Chen were waiting. Monroe glanced at Jenna, who gave a subtle shake of her head, sensing Anna's rising unease. "We're moving her now," Jenna said quietly. Chen nodded. "Let's go." The small group began moving down the corridor, their pace brisk. Unbeknownst to them, in a darkened maintenance alcove nearby, a man in a gray jumpsuit lifted his phone, speaking softly into it. "She tried to send a message," he said. "We need to move. Now." The air inside the airport operations center was thick with tension as Jenna returned with Anna. The unease in Anna's expression hadn't escaped her notice. Jenna exchanged a look with Monroe as they guided her back into a secure conference room now designated as a temporary safe space. Chen and Ramirez remained posted outside, radios crackling softly in their hands. Inside the surveillance room, the technician who had flagged Reynolds' movements leaned forward, scanning through hours of camera footage. "We've got something," he said urgently. On one of the side screens, a looping feed showed Daniel Reynolds moving through different sections of the terminal. He never strayed too far from the TSA checkpoint or the main exit routes. He lingered in waiting areas, circled back toward the restrooms twice, always glancing toward the security area where Anna had been held. Jenna leaned in, her jaw tightening. "That's stalking behavior," she said. "He's trying to maintain line of sight without drawing attention." The technician cued another feed from a camera facing a different angle of the checkpoint. There, Daniel appeared again, this time speaking briefly to a man in a gray maintenance uniform, who handed him a small object before walking away. "Freeze that," Monroe ordered. "Get me a still of that guy." They cross-referenced the image against employee databases. Within minutes, the man was identified as Peter Lasco, a janitorial contractor with recent irregular access logs. "He's likely our plant," Monroe said grimly, "probably the one who placed the camera in the restroom." "I'll notify airport security and NYPD," Jenna said. "We need to pick him up before he disappears." As the alerts went out, another officer, Detective Emily Novak, entered the operations center holding a slim manila folder. "I might have something that adds more context," she said, laying the folder on the table. "I pulled Anna Reynolds' prior police report." She opened the folder to reveal a scanned copy of a domestic violence complaint filed 18 months earlier. The form bore Anna's shaky signature. The report detailed multiple incidents of physical assault, stalking, and coercive control by Daniel Reynolds. However, the final page carried a scrawled note, "Complaint withdrawn at the request of the victim." Jenna frowned. "He pulled the complaint?" Novak nodded. "It was withdrawn after a threatening phone call was intercepted but never traced back to Daniel. Without concrete evidence, the case stalled." Monroe leaned closer. "That's not going to happen this time. We've got surveillance footage now. His behavior in this terminal, combined with the audio from Anna's phone, gives us new grounds to reopen this. And if we recover the camera from the restroom, that's an illegal surveillance device on federal property. It will tie directly to Lasco and by extension Reynolds." Jenna straightened. "We need that camera. I'll coordinate with maintenance to pull it immediately." As the operation expanded, another technician flagged new footage. "He's on the move again," she called. On the screen, Daniel was seen pacing near gate 23, glancing repeatedly toward his phone. "He's getting agitated," Jenna observed. "We need to act before he does." In the safe room, Anna sat with her head in her hands, her knuckles white. When Jenna returned, she knelt beside her. "Anna," she said gently, "we've reviewed the surveillance footage. We see what he's been doing. We know about your prior complaint. You don't have to face this alone anymore." Anna's shoulders trembled. "I was so scared," she whispered. "He said if I ever went to the police again." Jenna placed a steadying hand on her arm. "You don't have to say anything yet, but we have enough now to take action. He won't get near you." Anna looked up, hope flickering through her fear. Meanwhile, across the terminal, uniformed officers moved quietly through the maintenance corridors. Peter Lasco was located near a supply closet, his expression morphing from confusion to panic as the officers closed in. In his backpack, they found an array of small electronics, including a receiver linked to the pinhole camera. Under questioning, Lasco broke quickly. "He paid me," he confessed. "I didn't know she was going to the police. I just installed the camera. He said he wanted to know if she called anyone." The officers recorded the statement, securing both Lasco and the equipment as evidence. Back in the operations center, Novak updated the team. "With Lasco's statement and the camera footage, we now have corroboration that Reynolds was actively surveilling her. That's enough for an arrest." Monroe nodded. "Prep the takedown. We do this clean." Jenna checked her watch. "And fast. He's getting nervous. If he suspects we're closing in, he could bolt or worse, try to confront her." Monroe keyed his radio. "All units, eyes on Reynolds. Move in when you have a clear shot." Across the terminal, plainclothes officers adjusted positions. Daniel remained near gate 23, checking his phone repeatedly. His posture was tense, shoulders hunched, eyes darting toward every passerby. Then, abruptly, he began moving toward the main security exit. Jenna swore under her breath. "He's on the move, go." Officers converged, coordinating silently through earpieces. Jenna watched from the operations center, heart racing as the scene unfolded in real time. The tension inside the operations center was palpable as officers tracked Daniel's every movement through the terminal. On the large monitor, his figure moved swiftly toward the main security exit, jaw tight, phone clutched in one hand. Jenna watched intently, her fingers drumming against the console. Monroe spoke into his radio. "Units in position, move in on my signal." As the team prepared for the takedown, a new figure entered the room. A woman in her late 30s with a calm yet commanding presence. Her badge identified her as Sergeant Lisa Moreno of the Airport Police Department. She was known for her cool head and relentless advocacy for domestic violence victims. Few knew her personal reasons for this dedication. Jenna glanced up as Lisa approached. "Sergeant," Jenna greeted. Lisa nodded briskly. "I heard what's happening. I've reviewed the surveillance and the audio from Anna's phone. I think we need to escalate our protective measures." Monroe turned to her. "We're about to move on, Reynolds." Lisa's gaze shifted to the screen where Anna sat in the secure conference room, visibly shaken. "Good," she said, then added, "but I also think we need to initiate an emergency protective custody order for Anna. We can't risk procedural delays once he's in custody. We need to get her out of here safely now." Jenna frowned. "You think he'll have backup?" Lisa's voice was firm. "I know his type. Men like that don't give up just because they're arrested. He's already planted a camera, used an inside man, and stalked her through the terminal. He will find a way to reach her if we don't act fast." Monroe considered this. "We can coordinate with NYPD, get her into protective housing." Lisa nodded. "And I want to go with her. I'll take point on her protection detail." Jenna exchanged a look with Monroe, then nodded. "Agreed." Lisa turned toward Jenna's canine partner Max, who had been lying patiently beside her during the entire briefing. She crouched to scratch behind his ears. "Old friend?" she murmured with a small smile. Jenna raised an eyebrow. "You know Max before he was transferred to the TSA K9 unit. He was with the NYPD Domestic Violence Response Team. He was part of the unit that pulled a woman and her kids out of a barricaded apartment 2 years ago. Saved their lives." Jenna looked down at Max with newfound respect. "No wonder he picked up on Anna so fast." Lisa straightened. "He's trained to detect elevated cortisol and adrenaline, especially in DV victims. That's why he reacted the way he did. He knows the signs." Monroe nodded approvingly. "We've got the right dog on this." A voice crackled over the radio. "Subject is approaching the West Concourse, moving toward Terminal Exit C." Monroe spoke quickly. "All units, move in. Take him quietly." On the monitor, plainclothes officers converged, seamlessly blending with travelers until they flanked Daniel. At Monroe's signal, they closed in. One officer tapped Daniel on the shoulder. As he turned, confused, another officer expertly pinned his arms while reading him his rights. Daniel's face twisted in fury. "Where is she?" he snarled. "You can't do this." Officers ignored his protests, securing him with practiced efficiency. Jenna exhaled. "He's in custody." Lisa's gaze remained steady. "That's the first step. Now we focus on her." Moments later, Jenna and Lisa entered the secure room where Anna sat pale and trembling. Max padded in ahead of them, tail low, ears alert. He approached Anna, sitting close, offering silent comfort. Anna looked up, surprise flickering in her tear-streaked eyes. Lisa crouched beside her. "Anna, my name is Sergeant Moreno. We've arrested your ex-husband. You're safe for now. But I need you to understand, this isn't over. We need to move you to a secure location immediately." Anna's lip quivered. Will Max come with me?" she whispered. Lisa smiled gently. "He'll stay with you as long as you need." Jenna nodded. "He's the best protection you could ask for." Anna's eyes filled again, but this time with a hint of relief. Lisa continued. "I'm going to be with you every step of the way. I've been where you are, Anna. I know how hard it is to trust anyone, but I'm here to make sure you get through this." Anna's gaze locked with Lisa's, a silent understanding passing between them. Slowly she nodded. Outside the room, Monroe coordinated with NYPD units to arrange an unmarked transport. Jenna clipped Max's leash to her belt, ready to accompany the team. Lisa leaned in close to Anna. "When we move, stay close to me and Max. We'll handle the rest." Anna wiped her tears, determination flickering in her gaze for the first time in hours. "Okay," she whispered. "I'm ready." Inside the secure conference room, Anna sat flanked by Sergeant Lisa Moreno and Jenna Marks, Max resting dutifully at her feet. The weight of the past few hours pressed heavily on her chest, but Lisa's unwavering presence grounded her. Anna glanced at Max, his calm gaze meeting hers, offering a wordless promise of protection. It was the first flicker of trust she had allowed herself since stepping into the airport that morning. Lisa spoke gently. "Anna, we're going to move you soon, but first we need your help. Anything you tell us now can strengthen our case and help keep you safe." Anna inhaled shakily, her fingers twisting the hem of her shirt. For a moment, she struggled to find her voice, but when she looked up and met Lisa's eyes, something shifted. She straightened slightly. "I need to tell you the truth," she whispered. Lisa leaned in. "Go ahead." Anna swallowed hard. "The reason I'm here, this flight, it wasn't really my choice." Jenna frowned. "What do you mean?" Anna's words came faster now, the dam finally breaking. "Daniel forced me to book it. He planned everything. He told me if I didn't board this flight to Michigan, he'd hurt my sister. He has friends there, police, lawyers, people who owe him favors. If I went back, he said he'd have full control again." Lisa's expression hardened. "He was using the flight to isolate you." Anna nodded. "I thought maybe once I got on the plane I'd find a way to signal for help, but he was watching everything, the burner phone, the camera. He always has someone watching." Jenna exchanged a grim look with Lisa. "This wasn't just stalking, he's orchestrated a forced relocation." Lisa turned to Monroe, who had just entered the room with Detective Novak. "We need to stop this flight, now." Monroe nodded. "Already on it, the gate is locked down, but we need to tie this directly to Reynolds. If we can prove he was coercing her, it moves our case from domestic violence to federal kidnapping." Anna's voice trembled. "I can show you the messages. He made me keep everything on an encrypted app." Novak nodded. "We'll get your phone. Every message helps." As the tech team prepared to extract the data, a new voice came through the operations center radio. "Reynolds is in holding, but he's already asking for a lawyer. No statements yet." "That's fine, we've got more than enough to move forward. I want coordinated charges filed before he can make bail." Monroe turned to her. "We'll need to loop in Michigan law enforcement. If he's using connections there, we'll need allies ready." Novak added, "I've got a contact in the Michigan AG's office. They've been cracking down on public corruption and domestic collusion cases. I'll make the call." Lisa returned her attention to Anna. "You're doing the right thing, Anna. This will help stop him." Tears filled Anna's eyes, but this time they were tinged with relief. I want it to be over." Jenna placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll make sure it is." Moments later, in the operations center, screens displayed a flurry of coordinated activity. Officers compiled a timeline of Daniel's movements throughout the terminal, including his interaction with the maintenance worker and his multiple trips near Anna's holding area. The messages Anna provided painted a chilling picture of coercion and control. One text read, "You will get on that plane. If you tell anyone or try anything stupid, your sister pays." Another showed Daniel monitoring her every move. "I saw you near gate 12. Don't test me." Novak glanced up from the screen. "That's enough for a coercion charge, easy. Add illegal surveillance and obstruction." Monroe turned to the assembled team. "All right, here's the plan. We coordinate with NYPD and TSA Special Ops. Reynolds is already in custody, but we want a secondary sweep to catch any associates he might have planted. Anyone who helped him plant that camera or facilitated his movements here today gets brought in." Lisa added, "And when we move Anna, we do it under full cover. No exposed routes. We'll coordinate with the escort team and ensure she's transferred to protective custody discreetly." Monroe nodded. "You'll brief the team, let's get it done." As officers mobilized, Anna remained in the safe room with Lisa and Jenna. Max lay close, ever alert. Anna looked at Lisa, a tentative question in her eyes. "You said you've been through something like this?" Lisa gave a soft smile. "I have. Different circumstances, but the same fear. I know what it feels like to think there's no way out." Anna's voice cracked. "How did you get through it?" Lisa's gaze was steady. "I had people who refused to let me fight alone. Just like you do now. We'll get you through this, Anna. One step at a time." Anna's breath hitched, but she nodded. For the first time in what felt like forever, she believed it might be true. The clock in the operations center ticked toward 9:17 p.m., but the adrenaline coursing through the team kept fatigue at bay. The coordinated effort to secure Anna's safety was in full motion, with tactical units preparing the discreet transfer and legal teams compiling the final charges. Inside the secure room, Anna sat between Lisa and Jenna, her phone resting on the table with the latest threatening messages now logged into evidence. Max lay curled beside her, eyes flicking occasionally toward the door as if sensing the charged atmosphere. Across the airport in a holding cell, Daniel Reynolds paced in tight circles, a manic energy rolling off him in waves. His attorney hadn't arrived yet, but that didn't stop him from muttering under his breath. Piecing together the scenario in his head, the messages to Anna had gone unanswered for over an hour, and her phone location now showed stationary inside an administrative wing, not moving toward the gate as expected. Worse, his last burner text to the maintenance worker remained read but unanswered. Something had gone wrong. He sat abruptly on the bench, mind racing. They knew, they had her, and soon they would come for him. Daniel's eyes darted to the tiny camera feed concealed within the buckle of his belt, linked to the server planted in his car. The feed had gone black an hour ago. They had found the restroom camera. He clenched his fists. If he stayed, he was finished. If he moved fast, he might still have a window. He rose, knocking on the cell door. "I need to speak to my lawyer now," he demanded. The officer outside ignored him. Daniel gritted his teeth. He needed to get out. Elsewhere, in the operations center, Monroe and Novak reviewed the compiled charges. "We've got enough for no bail hold," Novak said. "But we need to anticipate contingencies. If he has outside help." Before she could finish, a radio transmission cut through. Subject Reynolds made a call to his lawyer's office. "We intercepted a secondary call routed to an unknown burner." Message was brief. "Plan B. Now." Monroe swore under his breath. "He knows." Lisa leaned forward. "What's Plan B?" Jenna tapped her earpiece. "Run the call log. Who did he contact?" Another tech responded. "Tracing now. Ping shows last signal routed through an access point near parking structure C." Monroe's expression darkened. "If he's got someone waiting, they'll move fast." Jenna's eyes narrowed. "Or he's got something stashed out there." Without waiting for orders, she rose. "Max can track him." Lisa stood too. "I'm coming." Moments later, Jenna, Lisa, and Max exited through a secure side corridor toward the parking structures, accompanied by two plainclothes officers. The air had cooled outside, the night wrapping the concrete levels of parking structure C in shadow. Max's posture shifted the moment they neared the entrance. Nose high, ears forward, body taut with focus. Jenna crouched beside him, unclipping the leash from her belt to give him more range. "Find," she commanded softly. Max surged forward, nose sweeping methodically along the concrete. His pace quickened near the third-level ramp, pulling Jenna and the team in his wake. Lisa kept pace beside her, scanning every parked vehicle. Max stopped abruptly near a dark gray SUV, hackles raised, a low growl rumbling in his throat. Jenna froze. "That's a hit," Lisa radioed. "We need EOD and evidence team to level 3, parking structure C. Potential vehicle of interest." The two officers fanned out, securing the perimeter. Jenna approached the SUV cautiously, Max sitting rigidly at her side. Gaze locked on the driver's side door. Through the window, a glint of metal caught the beam of Lisa's flashlight. A long gun, partially covered with a duffel bag on the passenger seat. Lisa swore softly. "That's no coincidence." Jenna nodded grimly. "That was Plan B." Moments later, the evidence team arrived with a bomb-sniffing K9 to clear the vehicle. No explosives were found, but the rifle, multiple loaded magazines, a burner phone, and several zip ties were recovered. Jenna radioed Monroe. "We've got a weapon cache." He had an exit strategy. Back in the operations center, Monroe turned to Novak. "That's enough. We push full coordination to NYPD. No wiggle room, no chance for bail." Novak was already typing the updated affidavit. "On it." In the secure room, Anna watched Lisa and Jenna's return on the security feed, a fresh wave of terror and gratitude washing over her. Lisa entered moments later, voice calm but urgent. "Anna, we found his car. He had weapons inside. You were right, he planned to move you by force if the flight didn't work." Anna's breath hitched. "He'll never stop," she whispered. Lisa knelt beside her. "He won't get the chance. We're moving you now. Full tactical escort, you're going to be safe." The atmosphere in the operations center was charged as updates streamed in from every unit. Lisa, Jenna, and the tactical team had just returned from the parking garage, where the discovery of Daniel's SUV loaded with weapons had escalated the case beyond domestic violence into a federal-level threat. Anna, under close protection, remained in the secure conference room, her hands clasped tightly in her lap as she processed the latest revelations. Lisa knelt beside her once more. "Anna, we've confirmed he had weapons ready. You're doing exactly what you should, staying safe. We're getting everything ready to move you tonight." Anna's voice shook. "He always said if I ran, he'd find me. I never understood how he knew so much." Lisa squeezed her shoulder gently. "We're about to find out." In the tech lab adjacent to the operations center, Detective Novak and the NYPD cyber unit were now focused on two key devices: Daniel Reynolds' seized phone and Anna's own device, which she had surrendered earlier that evening after the surveillance camera discovery. The forensic technician, a wiry man named Alan, adjusted his glasses as the decryption program finally cracked the first layer of Daniel's phone encryption. The screen filled with a cascade of message threads, folders, and app data. "We're in," Alan reported. Novak leaned closer. "Start with messaging apps. Anything encrypted or deleted, pull it all." Within minutes, the first batch of messages loaded, revealing a chilling pattern. One thread, labeled simply Anna, contained dozens of threatening messages spanning the past 6 months. The tone grew increasingly violent as time progressed. "If you leave again, I'll make sure no one ever finds you. Your sister will suffer first, then you. I see everything you do. Don't test me." The timestamps aligned with Anna's prior attempts to seek help, her aborted hotline call, even her trip to the airport. Novak's expression hardened. "That's enough to bury him." She flagged the messages and began compiling them into the official case file. Simultaneously, Alan worked on Anna's device, running a deep scan for anomalies. He frowned as unusual activity spiked on the monitor. "That's strange," he murmured. "What is it?" Novak asked. "There's a background process here that doesn't match any installed apps. It's cloaked under a system update file." Alan dug deeper, fingers flying over the keyboard. "Here, look at this." On the screen appeared lines of code identifying a spyware tool often used in private surveillance. It enabled real-time GPS tracking, microphone activation, camera access, and message mirroring. "Jesus," Novak whispered. "That's how he knew everything." Alan nodded grimly. "This was installed about 7 months ago, likely during one of their court-ordered visitation exchanges." Novak ran a hand through her hair. He was monitoring her phone the whole time. That explains how he always seemed one step ahead. Alan traced the data logs. He received updates as recently as 2 hours ago, before we pulled her device. He was watching even today. Novak rose, heading straight to the operations center. "Monroe, we've got it. Full spyware on her phone, planted by Reynolds. And we've got hundreds of messages on his phone, planted by Reynolds. And we've got hundreds of messages on his phone, planted by Reynolds. And we've got hundreds of messages on his phone." Monroe's face darkened. "We lock this case down. No chance for him to wriggle out." He keyed his radio. "Secure Reynolds in isolation. No further phone access, no outside contact." Across the terminal in the detention wing, Daniel sat in the interview room, face a mask of cold calculation. When the lead detective entered with a printed stack of his messages and a warrant outlining the new charges, Daniel's smirk faltered for the first time. "We've got it all, Reynolds," the detective said. "Every threat, every illegal surveillance move, you're done." Daniel's fists clenched under the table, jaw tightening. "You can't prove I planted anything." The detective dropped a photo of the SUV's contents onto the table, followed by screenshots of the spyware code. "We can, and we will." Daniel's eyes flicked to the evidence, the first sheen of sweat breaking across his brow. "That's how he was tracking you." Anna's breath caught. I didn't know. He always said he could see me." Lisa's voice was firm. "Not anymore. We've cut off his access, and with the threats on his phone, we've got enough to keep him behind bars for a long time." Anna's eyes filled with tears, not of fear this time, but of overwhelming relief. Max pressed closer to her side, sensing the shift. Meanwhile, back in the tech lab, Alan continued his deep dive. "There's more," he called out. "Looks like the spyware was also syncing data to an external server. We're tracing the IP now. Could be evidence of third-party involvement." Novak returned instantly. "Keep me updated. If he had help, we need to shut it all down." The final hours of the night blurred into dawn as the team at JFK's operations center processed the overwhelming weight of evidence now stacked against Daniel Reynolds. The spyware discovery, the death threats, the weapon cache, all of it left no doubt of his intentions. His attorney, upon finally arriving and reviewing the compiled file, had paled visibly before quietly advising his client to cooperate, though Daniel himself had grown sullen and withdrawn, offering no further statements. Anna, under protective watch, remained with Lisa and Jenna as NYPD and federal agents finalized the expedited request for a protective custody order under the Witness Security Program. The decision was swift. With Reynolds' extensive network in Michigan and the depth of the surveillance uncovered, the need for long-term protection was unquestionable. The U.S. Attorney's Office signed off within hours. Just after sunrise, Anna was officially placed under federal protection, her new identity and relocation plan already in motion. Lisa sat with her in the secure briefing room, explaining the process in soft, steady tones. Anna listened carefully, her tired eyes absorbing every word, though the lingering disbelief in her gaze was unmistakable. "You'll have a fresh start," Lisa assured her gently. "You'll be safe, and this time no one will be able to find you, not without your consent." Anna swallowed hard. "Max will stay with you as long as you want him to. He's been approved as part of your protective detail." At those words, Anna's composure finally cracked. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but this time they weren't from fear. She leaned down, wrapping her arms around the German Shepherd's broad shoulders, pressing her face into his fur. Max responded with a low, contented rumble, leaning into her touch. Later that morning, in a modest ceremony attended by key members of the airport police, TSA, and NYPD units involved in the case, Max was awarded a special commendation. The event was brief but heartfelt, the gathered officers offering genuine smiles as the K-9 received a custom collar tag, engraved with the department's seal and the words, "Guardian of the Vulnerable." Monroe gave the short speech. "This dog's instincts and training were critical in saving a life this week. Max exemplifies the bond between K-9 and handler, and reminds us all that vigilance comes in many forms." Jenna stood proudly beside her partner, hand resting lightly on his back as flashbulbs captured the moment. Across the room, Anna stood quietly with Lisa, her eyes bright as she watched the ceremony unfold. Afterward, the group gathered for a private farewell. Lisa approached Anna, placing a small envelope in her hand. "This has your new ID documents and contact instructions for your relocation team. I'll be part of your escort today." Anna blinked rapidly, emotion welling up again. "I don't know how to thank you." Lisa's gaze softened. "You already have. You trusted us and you fought back. That takes more courage than most people will ever know." Anna glanced down at Max, who had moved to sit beside her once more, tail thumping softly against the floor. She knelt beside him, cupping his face in her hands. "You saved me," she whispered. "You really saved me." The dog's amber eyes held her steadily, as if understanding every word. A small, genuine smile tugged at Anna's lips, her first in what felt like an eternity. Later, as the sun rose higher, a small convoy of unmarked vehicles rolled out from a secured exit of JFK, headed toward a safe house where Anna's transition would begin. Inside one of the cars, Anna sat beside Lisa with Max's head resting across her lap, her fingers absently stroking his ears as the city blurred past the window. Her heart still carried scars, but for the first time in years they weren't the only thing it held. There was space now, space for hope, for healing, for a life not defined by fear. She looked down at Max, her voice quiet but sure. And this time, she knew she wasn't alone anymore. If this story moved you even a little, if you found yourself holding your breath for Anna's fate, take a second to like and subscribe. There are many more true-to-life stories just like this one waiting to be told. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which moment in the story struck you the hardest? And where in the world are you watching from tonight? Drop a comment below, I read every one of them. Until the next story, stay safe, stay aware,